Hi guys, and welcome back to Belle's YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for tuning in to our latest interview. Today we're speaking with Belle founding coach Ali West, who has written an awesome article about 5 of the biggest myths around fat loss. Nutrition is such a large part of our overall health and is a key to achieving any sort of goal, and yet there's so many myths out there on the internet, on social media, which kind of grab our attention because they're nice and easy to understand, but realistically they're going to be stopping us from actually achieving our goals. So Ali has put together an awesome list of 5 of those biggest myths which we need to kind of steer clear of, and we're going to be talking to him today about those myths. So for anyone who's not familiar with myself or Belle, the brand, my name's Liam Kavanagh. I'm the founder of Belle, the world's first online fitness coach matching service, and Ali is one of our founding coaches. So I'll hand over to him now just to introduce himself and give kind of his fitness origin story. So what got him into fitness and what he's doing at the minute, where he's up to now with his sort of fitness journey and his business as well.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so as Liam said, my name's Ali West. I've been an in-person personal trainer since 2008, so quite a while now. I got into fitness industry by chance, really. I was a semi-professional footballer, and when I was 19, I tore my cruciate ligament, which put me out of the game. I fell into fitness, did a gym instructor qualification, got a job at Virgin Active, and then became a personal trainer. And within 3 years, I'd built up a full client base of clients, training people all day, every day. And then after 3 years, I decided to go out on my own, set up my own personal training business. Did that for 5 years, very consistently, month on month, year on year profit. And then in 2017, I decided to open my own gym, which I opened in January 2017, called Kinetic Fitness here in Nottingham in the United Kingdom. And we focus on 3 core areas with our gym, which is gym membership, personal training, and small group training. But last year we had the global pandemic. So my wife and I, we run the business together. We looked at how can we serve more people in an online capacity. And last year we set up our own online coaching business, which is almost like separate to the gym, called West Coaching. It's my wife and I's business. We run that together and we coach people, well, mainly women, we coach online to lose body fat, improve their relationship with food, and get in the best shape of their life and increase their energy levels. And we've been doing that since April last year, going very well, working with people online. So we serve people both online and offline at the moment, but I've been a trainer and a coach for a very long time, 13 years now, but many experiences. I've trained thousands of clients, and I love helping people, and I love the whole fitness and health industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and it's clear to see from all of the content you put out, like you've got your own podcast, your social media, that you do really care about helping people, and helping people to improve their well-being, and their health, and that's why it was so great to be able to sort of get you involved with Belle, and now sort of showcase what you're all about with this first article, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more to come. But yeah, so you mentioned obviously yours and your wife's online coaching business, kind of primarily helping women to lose fat, like that sort of being the main group that you help and the goal that you sort of help people to achieve. I think to help sort of frame this conversation, and before we start talking about some of the myths there are around fat loss, is to kind of give like a bit of a brief intro to people about how you would go about losing fat and what actual fat loss is versus just weight loss.
Yeah. So often the two terms, fat loss and weight loss, they almost go hand in hand. And I think a lot of the time people say they want to lose weight, but actually they mean they want to lose fat. So when we're talking about fat loss, we're talking about visually looking better. But if we lose body fat as well, not only will we aesthetically look better, but we will also feel better as well, because nobody wants like lots of excess fat on their body. It doesn't look great, and also it has a detrimental effect on our overall health and well-being as well, and not just our current health and well-being, our longevity of our health and well-being as well. Because we know if you've got like a high hip to waist ratio, for example, that has a direct link to cardiovascular disease and to type 2 diabetes. So we've got to look at health as a whole and not just maybe from a visual perspective. But a lot of the time people say, I want to lose weight, I want to tone up, I want to lose fat so I can look good on the beach or look good in the mirror or whatever. And they don't always think about long term. I think more people are now, but when I first started out in fitness, it was all about, I want to look good, I want to look good. But now I think people are catching on to feeling good as well and looking at the longevity of their health. So fat loss, really the way I go about it is it's got to be sustainable and it's got to be a lifestyle change. There's too much quick fixes in our industry, in the fitness industry. Everyone wants kind of like the silver bullet or the magic pill. And I'll be honest right now with everyone that watches this, that doesn't exist. There is no quick fix. There is no silver bullet. There is no magic pill. It takes time, effort, dedication, commitment to achieve your goals. And fat loss isn't something that happens overnight. It happens over months and years. So that's what people need to get in their mind first. It's a long process. And I coach people to make small, incremental, habitual changes so that can impact their lifestyle so that they can achieve a result that they want to and maintain that result. Because as we know, a lot of people go after a result, and a lot of people do get amazing results on their own. They don't always work with a coach or a trainer. They might do couch to 5K, or they'll start a new diet like keto or something, and they'll get incredible results. But a lot of the time, these people, 6 months down the line, they plateau or they go backwards, or sometimes, worst case scenario, people go back to even worse situation than where they were before. So my approach is, right, how can we make lifestyle changes that are going to stick for the long term? And let's get away from just looking good. Yes, that's amazing. We all want to look good, but let's feel good internally. Let's be able to move better. Let's be able to have longevity of our health. So that's how I approach it. And when we look at fat loss versus weight loss, for example, here's a kind of easy analogy. Let's say that at the moment you weigh 80 kilograms. Let's say you lose 10 kilograms of like physical body fat, takes you down to 70 kilos, but you put on 10 kilograms of muscle, you'll still weigh 80 kilos. So you'll still weigh the original weight, but visually and the way you feel and the way you move will be completely different. So a lot of the time people get like, obsessed with the scales. I've got to lose 5 kilos. I've got to lose 10 kilos. I've got to lose whatever. Yes, don't get me wrong. If you're extremely overweight, then we need to get that scale weight down. But what's more important is we get our body fat percentage down. So if someone's like 30% or higher, then we need to get that down into a healthy range. And that varies between men and women. As I say, we mainly work with women. Women tend to carry more body fat for obvious reasons, childbirth, etc. So women, we can allow for a higher body fat percentage, but there's still like technically healthy ranges that we can sit people in. So that's kind of the difference between fat loss and weight loss, and that's how I approach it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is so important to have that sort of more long-term focus when you are thinking about it. And it's, it's great to have, maybe a more aesthetic goal, and maybe that's the thing that is super potent, which motivates you to start in the gym. But I think anyone who has been exercising, in or out of the gym, whatever form of exercise it is, anyone that's been doing that for a span of years will probably tell you that their goal shifted from maybe starting at aesthetic to actually moving to more like health and well-being, and just how you feel. Like, you're gonna feel more energized because you have more like active, you have more muscle, so you have more, the ability to, it takes less energy to move all of that weight around because it's actually active, as opposed to sort of fat, which is just a store of energy. So it is really important to think about that, and yeah, like you said, recognize that it is a a long-term process. So yeah, moving on to some of those sort of fat loss myths then. One of the biggest ones I think most people will have heard is like foods for fat loss. So what are some of those like main, what are some of the foods that you hear spoken about most when people talk about like fat loss foods? And why is it not the case that you can just eat certain foods and they'll help you lose fat?
Yeah, good question, and it's a very poignant point, and it's something that, as you say, is touted around a lot. Like, eat this food and you will lose body fat, and it's just not true, really, because without being derogatory to food and putting food down, all food really is for us is a form of energy. We basically eat so we can do tasks and complete goals and get from A to B and to C and to D. So food is just energy. Yes, there's a lot more to it. There's nutrients, there's biology, chemistry, physics to food. But in simple layman's terms, food is just energy. Yes, there are foods that are going to help us be healthier, in air quotes, and there's going to be foods that are going to be detrimental to our health. And I think most people have a good understanding of what they are. But in terms of actual foods that are going to help you to lose fat, there aren't really any. But some of the common ones that I hear are, for example, usually vegetables. Oh, eat vegetables, so eat broccoli, eat your leafy greens, etc., and you'll lose body fat. Another one, a common one, is eat lots of protein and you'll lose body fat. So if you start eating steaks and loads of eggs and salmon and this kind of stuff, you'll lose body fat. They're the two primary groups that I tend to see. High protein and up your vegetables and you'll just miraculously lose fat. And it's not as simple as that, because I've seen from experience plenty of people come to me, and on paper you look at their food diary and you think, wow, it looks pretty good, better than most people, better than the average, and they might be having like tons of vegetables and tons of steak, yet for some reason they're not losing body fat. So we've got to look at more factors and more variables than just food. And to say, oh, eat broccoli and you're going to lose body fat, it's a throwaway statement, really. But I also understand why people do it, Liam. I understand why coaches have done it, and maybe I've been guilty of it in the past, because we want to like appeal to people, we want to reach out to people, we want to maybe sometimes get clicks or get likes, and it's an easy way to do it and say, oh, right, eat this food and you'll lose fat, and people are like, oh, that looks interesting. But when we really get down to the nitty gritty and the science and the basic facts, there are no foods that are going to help you to lose fat.
Yeah. I think it's like with all of these, myths out there about nutrition. I think most of them probably start like from a good place, and it's just like trying to make something which is quite complex and try to communicate in a simple way. And I feel like people maybe take it too far, so like it would get simplified down, but then they'll continue to simplify it down to a point where it actually isn't true. And that's where like people will be like, oh yeah, you just eat this food and you'll, fat will melt away, sort of thing. I think another one of those things which has been sort of simplified down is certainly the conversation around sort of calories and fat loss. I know for losing weight, you need to be eating less calories than you use in a day, and vice versa. If you want to gain weight, you need to be eating more than you use in a day. But when it comes to like specifically lowering that body fat percentage, you can't really, you're not really. It's worth thinking about more than just calories. What's kind of some of the main issues if you only focus on calories? Then, if you're trying to lose body fat, like what kind of challenges might you come up against?
Yeah. This is one of those areas where me and you had a little bit of a conversation about this, because it is one of those borderline ones. And yes, if you consume less calories than what you are burning off, then you are gonna technically lose some weight on the scales. You'd expect most of the time the scales to come down. But here lies some of the issues when we're just only focusing on a calorie deficit. And as I said in the blog, if people read it, I have got absolutely nothing wrong with a calorie deficit. And when I'm working with clients, we 100% look at calories. We look at macronutrients, because as I said, food is energy. And what people need to realize is a calorie is just literally a measurement of energy. Just like we measure length with centimeters or millimeters, we measure the energy in food with calories or kilocalories. So that's all that a calorie is. So when we're looking at like just a calorie deficit, we're only looking at that one element. We're just looking at, okay, calories in versus calories out. And a lot of people see coaches or trainers just saying, oh, you can only have a calorie deficit and everything will be fine and it's the magic pill again. But they often say, oh, you can eat whatever you want as long as you're in a calorie deficit. And here lies some issues, because we know that certain foods are, without sounding out there, certain foods are going to kill you. And I don't mean kill you in the short term, I mean kill you in the long term. So if I'm having 2,000 calories, for example, and I'm in a calorie deficit because maybe I need to consume 2,500 calories, so I'm in a calorie deficit. But what if that 2,000 calories is made up of like burgers, fries, pizza, all that kind of stuff? I could lose weight or I might not, but I'm going to feel like rubbish. I'm going to feel terrible. So we're not taking into consideration the quality of the food. We're only looking at the quantity, but we need to look at quality as well when it comes to fat loss and nutrition. So that's one area that's a real problem, because a lot of the time it's like eat whatever you want, and you can be in a calorie deficit and you're going to lose weight. And the next thing is, as I said before, we're talking about fat loss and weight loss. So as I said, they're different. So if I know people that I've worked with, they've been in a calorie deficit. So they've been as low as eating something like 1,300 calories, which even for a female is like crazy low. That's like really ridiculously low. They've been eating that amount of calories of all good quality foods as well, yet they're not losing weight or body fat. So they're stepping on the scales and it's still saying 80 kilos, and they're getting the calipers done, or they're going to step on some body fat scales and it's still saying they're 26% body fat. Yet they're in a huge calorie deficit. So, okay, what's going on here? This is where we need to look at other factors and other variables. So if we're only focusing on a calorie deficit, yes, we might get some short-term or even medium-term weight loss, but we're not going to get long-lasting fat loss, and we're not going to get long-lasting health benefits as well.
Yeah, and what are some of those like other factors there you mentioned that people want to be considering if they're maybe trying to lose body fat, but it's they're coming up against a bit of a barrier? Like, what other things should they be looking at?
Yeah, definitely. For both men and women, the one thing that really is worth looking at is hormonal health and hormonal balance. For example, if somebody is really jacked up on cortisol, so most people are, because cortisol is a stress hormone. Cortisol sometimes gets a bad rep. You do need stress, because if not, we'd all be like lazy and we probably wouldn't get anything done. So we need some stress in our life. But the amount of stress that we are subjected to now with computers, with work, with everything, we have probably too much stress, an overload of stress. So most people have a high level of cortisol. High level of cortisol can be linked to like poor sleep quality, and that takes us into another factor that we need to be aware of, which is sleep. High cortisol can be directly linked to body fat storage around the middle, because we can build up toxins around the middle, and that can cause us to have excess body fat around the middle. So that's just one hormone, cortisol, and there's loads of different hormones. Also, estrogen is a big one. A lot of men and women have too much estrogen. So women have too much estrogen usually because of their nutritional choices, but also because they're on the contraceptive pill, which is high in estrogen. So when we have too much estrogen, we can store it mainly around like our chest, our triceps, those areas. So a lot of women are like, oh, I've got like bingo wings, or I've got like these bits here that don't look very nice in a bikini. I'm pointing to my chest if people are just only listening to this. So that can be directly linked to estrogen imbalances. And men, they usually get too much estrogen from poor nutritional choices, and then they get the dreaded man boobs and stuff like that. So hormonal health is one area for both men and women to look at. As I mentioned, sleep is another area. Hydration is another big one, because most people are walking around dehydrated, and hydration not only affects like your overall health, and particularly one area that it affects massively is your cognitive performance, but it also impacts your ability to lose body fat and your metabolism as well. Because as we know, we are water-based beings, and we need water for pretty much every function in the body requires a level of hydration. And just a tiny amount of dehydration just causes a whole host of problems within the body, and particularly around metabolism and fat loss as well. So they're like some key areas: hormonal health, sleep, hydration. They're three big ones that we look at, and then they directly tie into other ones as well, which is like your stress reduction, um, and your mental state as well. Because if you can solve like your hormonal health, your sleep, and your hydration, you're going to reduce stress anyway. Because if you're getting better quality sleep, you're gonna have less stress, and they kind of all go back and forth with each other. The one I haven't mentioned though that is really, really critical that people should take notice of is gut health. Gut health is huge, and this is an area that I've become more knowledgeable about in the last couple of years, because I had a lot of clients and they would seem to be doing everything right, and then they're telling me further down the line that they've got digestive issues or they've got IBS or stuff like this, and they should have probably told me this sooner. And when we've corrected those kind of gut problems, then things have just speeded along, because the gut is technically your second brain. There's I think like there's a crazy amount. There's trillions of microbiome, both good and bad. So microbiome is your gut bacteria. There's trillions of that in there, and most people have a lot of the bad gut bacteria, and they have leaky gut. This is where the cell membrane of the gut wall lets all sorts of stuff that you don't want to let into your bloodstream go into your bloodstream, and this has an impact on your overall health and well-being, and in particular your metabolic health. And if you've got good metabolic health, you're going to be more efficient and effective at losing body fat.
Yeah, no, I think there's, like you said, that all of those things, are connected and do link together. And I think, if people don't take nothing away from all of those things, or aren't too fussed about, the nitty gritty and all the biological aspects of that, it's just like, if you get more sleep, you have the ability to be more disciplined with your food choices. So you can choose not to have that extra bit of food or that extra bit of chocolate or, that sort of thing. If you drink more water, you're not going to feel as hungry, because a lot of the time when you when you do feel hungry, when you think you feel hungry, it's actually just dehydrated. So it's, like you said, all of those things just kind of interlink. And it's just about helping you to, feel more in control and just, like you said, feel healthier, which at the end of the day is what we want for ourselves, is we want to sort of feel healthier.
I'll just touch on this one quickly as well, mate. Another big one that we haven't mentioned is the training. Like, the training is so important, and most people they either train not enough, too much, or they do what I'd call maybe incorrect training, so they're not training efficiently. And you're a person that is constantly posting workouts, so you know the importance of a balanced, structured, progressive, periodized training program, and that is so important. I mean, you can have somebody that is not focusing on a calorie deficit, but they have a rock solid training program, and they can lose body fat through optimizing their training regime.
Yeah, definitely. I think, because obviously we're speaking more specifically about those nutritional myths. It's easy to forget that actually a massive part of your overall health and that fat loss journey will come from training. So if you're listening and you're sort of confused about how you should be training, then definitely keep posted, because we'll be doing more videos around how to structure workouts and all that sort of thing. And if you're not okay to wait, then feel free to reach out to Ali, myself, or even try to have a look for a coach through Bell, and all the relevant links will be below. But bringing it back to sort of those nutritional myths, one of the biggest ones, which people probably don't even realise is a myth, is around carbs. Now, like, carbs is almost like a dirty word to some people. It's like, I can't eat, like, carbs are bad for you, all of that sort of thing. Where do you think that, like, kind of bad rep has come from? And for people who do think that carbs are bad for you, like, what would you say to them to let them know that actually, no, that is a myth and you can lose body fat whilst eating carbs?
Yeah. So I think it comes from the nutritional and the health and fitness industry. So if we take it right back to sort of mid to late 70s, going into the 80s, there was a guy called Dr. Atkins who was massive, and he wrote many books, and he developed the Atkins diet. And the Atkins diet was basically zero carbs. It was like a high fat diet, and people were taking up this diet and losing tons of body fat, losing tons of weight. and it just blew up. And then it still expanded and exploded into the 90s as well. So people were like, yeah, carbs are bad because Dr. Atkins says carbs are bad. And that was the first part of carbs getting a bad rep. Then we moved into like the noughties and like the mid noughties, early noughties, and paleo diet was all the rage. So if anybody doesn't know what the paleo diet is, it's basically eating like a caveman or a hunter gatherer. So anything that kind of you can catch, kill, that swims, flies, or you can pick off branches, you consume that. So again, it's very high protein, moderate fat, and pretty much zero carbs, because when we was hunter gatherers, we weren't really farmers. We wouldn't grow and pick stuff. We wouldn't grow.
You can't pick bread off the trees.
You can't pick bread or pasta. You wouldn't grow because we didn't have farming back in ancient times. So that was the paleo, and the paleo is the same thing. Like you'll get ripped, you'll get in great shape, but you don't need any carbs. And I was first did the paleo diet in 2008, so this is a long time ago, and I was loving it, and I did lose weight, but I didn't need to lose weight. I was like super skinny anyway, so I was like looking almost gaunt with it when I did paleo. So that was the second part. Then fast forward to like the last few years. What's huge, and really this isn't the last few years because this took off in the 90s as well, but the ketogenic diet, the keto diet, but this has had a massive explosion in the last 5 years, and people go mad for keto, which is, again, very small percentage of carbs, high fat, and it's low protein this time with keto. So it's high fat, medium to low protein, and very low, if not anything, carbs. So you've had like these 3 huge diets that have pretty much like destroyed the reputation of carbs, saying they're bad, they're going to make you fat, and all that kind of stuff. And the basic simple science why a lot of people have said this and touted this for many years is that we need carbohydrates for energy, so we use carbohydrates for energy. So let's say that I have some pasta or some rice or some bread for lunch. Then I go to do an activity in the afternoon. It could be simply as walk into somewhere to see my friend. My body's going to require energy to do it. So it'll go after the carbohydrates first, and then whatever isn't used of those carbohydrates is stored as fat, as glycogen stores, and then we go after the glycogen or the fat stores as like our secondary energy source. So that's what people said was like, okay, eat less carbs, and then you'll start cutting away at the fat sooner, which has some merit, and it does have some grounding in science as well. So that's how the bad rep got. That's how the kind of the idea behind it that trainers and nutritionists and doctors were pushing out. But then again, we start looking at, okay, what are the quality of the carbohydrates? Where are these carbohydrates coming from? What's the quantity as well, again? And then we have to look at like individualism, or you could say individual bioavailability. So I might have a keto diet and I might respond terribly to it and I might not lose any body fat. Then somebody might have like a really high carb diet and they can maintain like a single figure digit body fat percentage. So when we're just like cursing carbs and saying don't eat carbs, we're not taking into effect or into context all of the different moving parts and variables again. And I'm a prime example of that because I can't have a keto diet because I need like technically a low fat diet. When I had a keto diet, I responded terribly to it. I eat a lot of carbs and I hover between like 8 and 10% body fat all year round, and I weigh like 67 kilos, which is like nothing. And I know plenty of other people, clients included, that have a relatively high amount of carb consumption and they're still in like brilliant shape. Yeah. So we need carbs. In fact, we don't need carbs because the body can survive without carbs. It's the only macronutrient that the body can survive without. We can't survive without fats and we can't survive without protein. We need fats and protein, but we can technically survive without carbohydrates. But I think they're still useful because they provide a lot of energy. When we're getting the sort of low glycemic index carbohydrates and low glycemic load carbohydrates, they can give us prolonged energy as well. And also they give us that sensation of being full as well. And that's another bad rep. Like people say, oh, you eat carbs and you don't feel full. Well, that's if you're eating the wrong type of carbs. If you're eating very sugary, high glycemic index carbohydrates, which a lot of people are eating, that's when we're going to,
If you're eating like white bread and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
like kind of like really processed bread, processed carbohydrates, sugars, sweets, our convenience and fast food. When we're eating those kind of carbohydrates, that's when we're going to get that like real hit of sugar and real hit of energy, but then we're going to crash. Whereas if we consume stuff like sweet potato, more long grain rice, couscous, these kind of carbohydrates, then we are going to have long sustained energy throughout the day, and we're going to have less chance of crashing or snacking, or being on, I call it the sugar roller coaster, where you're down 1 minute, up the next, down 1 minute, up the next. So I've got nothing against low carbohydrate diets, but I have got a problem when people say carbs make you fat, because it's not true. It's that's anything can make you fat. You could eat you could eat loads of broccoli and you could get fat. You could eat loads of sweets and get fat. You could eat loads of salmon and get fat. Like any food can make you fat if you eat enough of it.
Yeah, literally. If you're not using that energy, then it's gonna be stored as fat. So I think the biggest kind of like takeaway there then is that carbs, one, big carbs are not bad for you. And two, it's about finding, like, you can find a way which works for you. Like, you don't have to think, oh, I must do keto because that's the method to lose fat or whatever. I must follow this paleo diet because it's so high in protein or whatever. You can achieve your goal with any of those methods, and it's just about sort of finding the one which works best for you. And I think a lot of people and trainers, try to cut out carbs because that can sometimes be the biggest, of I'd say an everyday person's diet, your macro sort of pie chart, a lot of that comes from carbohydrates. So it's easier to cut out, some of those rather than, fats or proteins. So I think,
as I said, it's the quantity and the quality when it comes to carbs are really, really important. And yes, most people eat far too many carbs. It's particularly in like the Western world, America, Canada, the UK, Europe, excuse me, that we're obsessed with like piling loads of carbs on. So yes, reduce your carbohydrate intake down, but you don't need to completely cut them out.
Yeah. Like, if you love bread, don't stop eating bread. Like, you can find other ways to, help you achieve your goal. Don't make your life miserable in pursuit of a goal. Like, you have to actually enjoy that process you're going through. So find the method which sort of suits you best, or a combination of methods, or like, certain variations or whatever. Just have a play around with it and find what really works best for you.
Yeah, and listen to your body as well. Like be self-aware of how you're responding to certain foods. So, and then we can tie into this mindful eating. So a lot of people, like, they shovel their food down and they're not really concentrating on what they're doing. So just be aware of what you're eating and how you feel. So if you eat white bread, for example, and your stomach bloats up and you feel like crap, then maybe that's not the right food for you. But then if you go and eat like long grain white rice, or you eat sweet potato, or you eat quinoa or whatever, and you feel great, then that's good. That's working for you. So listen to your body and be aware of how certain foods are making you feel as well. And if you want to take that step further, you can record a food diary or a food journal and start putting foods down. Oh, that made me feel like this I was okay with. And then you can start to work out what suits you, because there's no one size fits all. There's no one diet that is right for everyone. You have to do what works for you on an individual basis, and also that fits around your lifestyle as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a really good way to think about it. And in life, we don't really spend much time reflecting on anything that we do, so it's kind of a weird habit to get into. But it can play a massive role in you finding out what foods you actually not only you like, but actually are good for you, and your body responds well to. So yeah, I definitely recommend that to people as well. So another, just moving on to the next sort of myth that needs to definitely be sort of addressed is products which say no or low fat on them. So I think it's quite easy for someone who's looking to lose fat, right? I'm trying to lose fat. and this product says it has no fat in it, therefore I won't put on any fat, or this will help me to lose fat. Like that, I think that's kind of the the logic behind why those products are so popular. But that isn't the case. So do you want to sort of help people to understand why you shouldn't be going for these low fat or no fat products based off of the thought that it will help you lose fat?
Yeah, this is a good one because this kind of ties into everything that we've been saying as well. So it's the same principle as when people say, "Oh, carbs make you fat." A lot of people think that dietary fat makes you fat as well. And again, this comes back to diet fads, to marketing, to what's been pushed out to us through the media. And there was this big push. Well, it's probably been the whole of the last century and moving into this century where fat makes you fat, and you need a low fat diet if you want to lose fat and you want to lose weight. You need to be consuming minimum amounts of fat. And the paleo diet and the keto diet, as I've already mentioned, have pretty much blown this one out of the water, because people are eating high fat diets on a keto diet, which is like 85-90% fat, and their health markers are amazing and they're in great shape. So it's almost dispelled that one that fat makes you fat. And just like I said, carbs don't make you fat. Fat doesn't make you fat, or it can. It can make you fat, or it can't. So, but a blanket statement of you're going to get fat if you eat lots of fat is just strictly not true. And the problem with low fat products, so we can eat low fat naturally, or we can go and pull stuff off the shelves of the supermarket and the stores that say low fat on the packaging. So I eat a low fat diet, but I eat natural, whole, unpressed foods most of the time. Where I can, I try and eat organic, that kind of thing. I don't pull stuff off the shelves that's low fat, because the problem is with a lot of, not all of them, but a lot of low fat products that are on the shelf are really high in processed sugars and high in sugar in general. And the prime example of this, and this is the one that most people will probably relate to, is the yogurt industry. And a lot of people eat yogurt, and like yogurt, yeah, yogurt's a healthy food. They can consume it pretty much any time of the day. And yeah, I'll go and grab the low fat yogurt because that's the healthy version, right? So they go and scoop off the low fat yogurt. They're consuming loads of yogurt, and hang on a minute, I'm feeling a bit not great, and I'm seem to be putting on body fat. I thought yogurt was good for me. But the problem with these low fat products, in particularly low fat yogurt, as I said, is they're high in sugar. And you don't have to be a genius or be an expert in reading food labels. Just pick up one of these yogurts that says low fat and just look at the sugar and the carbohydrate content, and it will be sky high. And as I mentioned earlier when we talked about carbs not making you fat, but if we've got a high level of sugar coming in, then that's going to be detrimental to our fat loss goals, our weight loss goals, but it's also going to be detrimental to our long-term health as well, because high sugar leads to type 2 diabetes. It can lead to coronary heart disease. It can lead to inflammation, and inflammation is the biggest cause of disease or dis-ease. So we want to keep that sugar content, particularly glucose, which is fast releasing sugar, we want to keep that relatively low. And these low fat products have high amounts of sugar. And you can do a simple Google search of like food labels and how to understand food labels. It doesn't take much effort. It's really, really simple. And you can get a good gauger. And you can go in the supermarket if you do want to pick up a yogurt and think, oh, hang on a minute, this is not right. So I always say, when it comes to those products, avoid them like the plague, because they're usually really processed and they're high in sugar. And if you are going for something like a yogurt, for example, then just get the natural version, like natural Greek yogurt or full fat yogurt, or the actual natural organic version of it, not the one that's like, I'm not going to say a brand, but that says low fat, 0% fat yogurt, because it's probably going to be high in sugar. And that's just one example. That's yogurt, but it's the same in a lot of people they pull off these ready meals off the shelf. Low fat ready meal by X brand, and again, you just have to read the packaging, and it's got added stuff in it. It's got emulsifiers, it's got E numbers, it's got sugar. Just because it says low fat doesn't mean that it's, one, going to help you to lose body fat, and two, that it's in air quotes again healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's important to understand that the fat that you're seeing on that label is not the same thing that hangs beneath your arms or around your stomach. Like, dietary fat plays a very crucial role in your body, And it doesn't just, oh, if I eat this dietary fat, it's going to mean that I have more body fat on me. Like it's two separate things. And I think it's, similar to, now that more people kind of understand you need, protein in your diet, and, higher protein helps you to build muscle, or to lose weight. And, it's very crucial for any health goal. You now see more and more products say source of protein on them, just so that, like, it's a way of marketing a product to us. We think, I need lower fat so that I don't have body fat, so I'll go for these 0% fat products. Or I now understand that I need more protein in my diet, so this box says source of protein on it. So we'll go for that. It's just a way to, like, catch your attention. So I think that's something as well to be, like, super aware of, because one, like, with those low fat products, that's not necessarily going to help you lose body fat. And with the protein example, a lot of times it will say that source of protein, but for you to get anywhere near, like, a decent amount of protein per portion, you'd have to be eating absolutely loads. And they've literally just put those words there so that that there is protein in it. But I mean, there's protein in loads of stuff, and it's just about how high that concentration is. So I think that's important for people to understand.
Exactly, yeah. And fat is, after carbohydrates, it's one of the best sources of energy for our body, and that the keto diet is proof of this. Is people that are on a ketogenic diet, their primary source of energy is from fat. They're burning ketones, they're burning fat as an energy source. So we can't dismiss fat, but fat, again, like carbohydrates, it's again the type of fats that we're consuming. So a lot of us are consuming, like, man-made fats, which are just awful. And you don't have to take my word for it. You just punch it in Google and search and see all the reams and reams of research that shows how detrimental man-made fats are. And when I say man-made fats, I mean trans fats and hydrogenated fats. And this is in stuff like margarine, and most people think, margarine's really good for me, but it's not. It's a man-made fat, and there's many, many man-made fats. And again, a lot of it's in processed foods. So we need to really, this covers the whole board of everything we're talking about today, is get back to more of a natural way of eating, eat more from nature, should I say. And when I first got into nutrition back in, like, 2008, 2009, when I really started taking it seriously, somebody said to me, like, if you are going to shop at the supermarket, shop around, like, the outskirts of the supermarket, because that's where the healthy stuff tends to be. And when you go down the aisles, it's all like shiny lights and packages. Everything you said, like, contains protein. This is vegan friendly. This is low fat. And all of it's pretty much terrible because it's made in a factory. Whereas if you go and shop the outskirts, like the veg section, the dairy, the deli counter, those areas, you're going to get much healthier food. That's if you decide to shop at a supermarket. I personally do, but some people take it to the next level where they only go to a farm shop. And then some people take it higher than that, where they only grow their own food. So it's where you position yourself. But most of us, 95% of us, go to a supermarket. So that's a good piece of advice, is that I shop around the outside.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually so funny, like, how supermarkets are, like, designed to make you, like, pick certain things. Like, if there's a sale on, or something the supermarket wants you to buy, they'll probably put smaller tiles on the floor so that when you're pushing your trolley, it vibrates more, and you're therefore more aware of your surroundings, because that vibration is, like, making you aware of what's happening, and therefore you're going to look at those products. So it's funny how, like, there is so many little things that you're not aware of in a
they also put the best sellers on Eyeline. I know all of this because I used to work in retail. So yeah, they put the best sellers at Eyeline, and then we was always taught, like, put loads of stuff around the till as well, because it's like upselling. So you'll do all your shopping, get to till, oh that looks good, load it in your trolley. And what's around the till, just next time somebody goes to the supermarket, just look around what is around the till or the checkout. It's all stuff that is just basically going to put you in an early grave. So just be strong, ignore it, keep focused, and go and pay for your shopping, and just ignore that fancy stuff.
Yeah. I think it's easier to do that when you realise it's, like, a deliberate ploy to try to get you to buy that stuff. So, but yeah, anyway, so I think that has kind of dispelled the myth around low and no fat products, and people can kind of understand now why they shouldn't just be living by those labels. And finally, one of the, again, another one which is really popular for people to kind of talk about is, eating food late at night. So I'm not sure of the, specific logic behind it, but I think it's something around, if you eat food and then don't go and exercise, or you don't have the rest of the day to like use that energy, you're going to sleep and then your body turns it into fat. Or I think that's sort of the logic behind that suggestion, but that's not the case, is it?
No, I mean, I actually had to do some rooting around for this, and do some actual kind of solid research and look on different journals and different sites to see what the deal was with this. And as far as I can make out, somebody might prove me wrong, but I can't find any kind of real hard science and hard data that says if you eat after 8 o'clock, for example, you're going to stack on a load of weight. So that's the first way that we can dispel this is by science. Is there's no real science to say it. And where I think people are coming from is very much exactly what you said, Liam, but also I think now we know more than we've ever known about things like circadian rhythms and sleep patterns, but also around fasting as well. And I think a lot of people think that, okay, there's certain points of the day when your digestive system is technically at rest and it shouldn't really be doing anything, which is usually sort of after 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So I think a lot of people think that we're going to have issues processing, digesting, using, absorbing whatever we consume, and it's going to be detrimental and we're going to put on body fat. But really, when you look at it, it's just not the case. And a good example of this is physique competitors and bodybuilders. They eat, a lot of them, they eat at all sorts of times. They sometimes wake themselves up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, so they can consume protein or consume different macro and micronutrients so they can be in the best possible shape when they're in a competition or they set foot on stage. Another good example of this is an example that I used in the blog article is shift workers. So you'd think that all like shift workers would be like super overweight, and don't get me wrong, some of them are in terrible shape, but you still get shift workers that have good exercise training regimes, have great nutrition, are in great shape, have great energy, considering they do shift patterns, have good sleep as well. So you can't, again, use this blanket term of eating late at night is going to make you fat, because there's plenty of examples of people that eat at silly times and they still manage to keep a healthy body fat percentage. So it's quite an easy one to dispel. There's no real science behind it. And there's plenty of examples of people that eat at silly times and maintain a healthy weight or a healthy body fat percentage.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the good bit of advice that you can take from, if you ever hear someone say something like that, is that it is good to leave a bit of time between eating and falling asleep, because if your body is digesting something, your body's working, and then you're trying to get to sleep, it's going to be difficult. So that's maybe where there's some sort of benefit to not eating too late. But if you go to bed late, you can eat later, because you just need to have that time between.
It ties back into what we were saying earlier about there being very many very different variables, and then we're going back onto the sleep one and how important it is to have good sleep. So yes, you could still, as you said, we could still have great sleep, but we could shift that eating time around. We could say, okay, right, I'm not going to bed till midnight, but I'm going to wake up at 7:30. I'm still going to have 7.5 hours of high quality sleep, but I'm going to eat at 10 at night. So most people would say, well, you can't eat at 10 at night because it's going to make you fat. Yeah. But I've still got a 2-hour window before going to sleep. So again, it's timing, it's quality, it's quantity. There's lots of different things to look at. And to say that, if you eat after 8 p.m, you're going to get fat is not true. I mean, I do personally like to eat earlier. That's just my personal preference. But I know people that are in ridiculously good shape and they eat at like 11, 12 at night. And then we look at the Mediterranean lifestyle where they eat late at night anyway. And they're some of the healthiest people on the planet with the longest lifespans as well. A lot of them live to 100, 110 and older. And they, I mean, my wife's family live in southern Spain. And when we go over there, you're not going out to dinner till after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Every time. So, and the people that live in that village where my wife's family live, you don't see a single fat person around there or an overweight person.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great example as well, because if anyone, obviously not in the too recent history, but in the past, if you've been on holiday to Europe and different places, like the people do eat a lot later, and like if that was totally detrimental to everyone's health, that just wouldn't happen. So I think that's another great example for people to kind of clarify in their mind, oh no, actually no, it doesn't matter if I eat later, like just as long as you've got that window to digest and get good sleep so that you can sort of support yourself in trying to achieve, you know, whatever goal it is you're going after. But yeah, I think that's we've really sort of deep dived into all of those myths, and I think anyone who's watched this will be in a place now where they can, you know, next time they hear someone trot out something like, you know, one of the myths that we've spoken about, like there are certain foods for fat loss, you know, calories are the only thing you need to worry about, carbs are bad for you, go for low fat products, or you can't eat late at night. If anyone ever hears that, I think you should have the knowledge now to go and sort of argue that point, or even just direct that person to this video so that they can sort of understand how those things aren't really the case. So massive thank you, Ali, for coming on. It's been great to talk to you about it. And you know, you always, you know, articulate these things which are quite complex in a very digestible manner. So thanks a lot for that.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Cool. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you've liked the video, please drop a little like on this video on YouTube if you're watching. And if you're interested to see some more videos like this and different topics, and you know, if you are someone who's looking for guidance around the workout piece as well, definitely hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for our next videos. Thanks again for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.